Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to the Counter-Strike season returning, obviously. Returning with a big one. Sure, we've just seen Fissure Playground finish with an amazing win for Tyloo, but Cologne is where it's at. It's the best time of the year, one of the most exciting times of the year. The Cathedral returns, and I can't wait to see how Counter-Strike is going to look in the second half of the year with the new update, of course, the MP9 changing a little bit, the Incendiary getting a little bit better, and Overpass returning to the map pool. Plenty to talk about. This will be my little video for at least stage 1 of the tournament. See who's going to make it through to that most important stage, the main stage. These are going to just be my predictions overall, and we're going to get straight into it right now. I'm going to make this pretty quick fire and just give my current thoughts on the teams and currently where they stand. We're going to start off with FaZe versus Big. Brokey's back. Is that going to change much for FaZe? I personally don't think so. They don't need to really integrate him or get him synergy back into the fold. At least that's something, right? But I'm not necessarily sure that's going to really do a whole lot for them. Big, though, they're kind of in no man's land in the Counter-Strike scene at the moment. Are they really going to be doing anything much in the second half of the year? Are they just like a nothing tier 1.5 team that they'll continue to be like they have been for so long? Probably. It's a home event. At least they're there representing Germany in Cologne. That's something. That's kind of what the organization wants, I'm sure. But, you know, I think that they're just nowhere near that next level. And Crimbo, I feel like he's kind of missed the boat on really making a big move to make that step up in his career, sadly. So I think FaZe take this one. They go through to the next round to play one of Liquid or Pain. Seen a bit of Liquid online in that EPL qualifier, losing to Sashi. Awful. Other recent lands, pre-player break, very, very, very rough around the edges. I know Shuri hasn't had a whole lot of time to integrate his in-game leading style to this team, but it looks really bad. It really does look really bad. I'm not confident in Liquid here at all. I think they might not even make it through this first stage, and they have to. They plenty have to, because they've dropped down to that closed qualifier level now with the likes of you know, Fnatic and like that tier of teams that won't get these direct invites. So they're in trouble. They're really in trouble. They have to have a good Cologne, and I don't think they will, sadly. I think Pain beats them here, even though they looked a little bit shaky at Fissure Playground. Obviously, didn't make the playoffs there. 3D Max MIBR, I have to take the stable level of 3D Max for this one, knowing how good they can be and how solid they can be across the board. Especially considering MIBR just made a change, bring Nyx into the fold. Nyx is actually an ex-Fortnite pro who used to be on MIBR's academy, a little time in Fluxo, and he was okay in Fluxo. He didn't really set the world alight though against any bigger teams, and that's why I don't think this MIBR change is going to really do much to them at all. Will it free up Insani with Lukowski going the other way? Maybe. But I'm not so sure. I don't think there's actually anyone on the team on MIBR right now, even though they are ranked very closely to 3D Max, that I can really say jump off the page at me anymore, even though they've got all the experience in the world at this point, apart from Nyx, right? I think that's going to be their downfall. So taking 3D Max for that one. They play the winner of NIP or Heroic. This is a really, really tough game to call. Bit of a rough showing for Heroic at their first event with Grix. You know, they're integrating him slowly. But I do think the Heroic team is better than the current NIP, even though we're now going to see NIP again back with ex-Kaspersky. First time back in the team since being in the academy a couple of times, obviously, over the years. I think it's a good pickup. I do think he's better than Arosdos and actually looked a lot better than quite a lot of his teammates on Ents, to be fair, during his time on that team. That's why I actually think this game is going to be quite close, considering I don't think Heroic are there just yet. I'm genuinely it's a really tough one to call for me. I'm actually going to take NIP as a bit of a wild gamble on this one. And I think they have a really good chance against one of either 3D Max or MIBR as well, right? So that's why I think it's a good portion of the bracket for both NIP and Heroic. Game Legion Complexity, again, a really hard one to call. I'm actually going to take the experience of Complexity on this one. That may be a surprise to some, knowing how decent Game Legion are. I do think Halzek is still better than Kersey. Kersey had an okay first event, but I do just get the feeling that even though Ash has his beloved Overpass back in the pool, there's no way Complexity let it go through the veto. I don't think in any stretch of the imagination. And I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Complexity just about edge it, and we'll go through to play one of Tyloo or VP. And right now we have Yin and Yang. There we go. between these two for me. Tyloo have just won Fissure Playground, an international LAN. Jamyoung has put in a generational LAN. Like, he's currently 1.27 last 3 months. You look at his matches, he got a 1.4 across the event at Fissure Playground. He was the MVP of Fissure Playground. He dropped 90 bloody kills over the course of the Astralis BO5. He was unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. And sure, it's going to ask a lot for him to continue form like that. But I genuinely think this Tyloo is in a really good place right now in terms of, like, their tempo and their synergy, because even with Joking, without G, they got to that semi-final. G then came back for the semi-final at Fissure Playground. Joking is an ex-pro. He was a good player back in the day, but he hasn't played in however long. They still looked great with Joking. It shows where they're at. And with Jamyoung playing this well, Tyloo are a danger, and they are a lot better than VP right now. Watch VP win this BO3 after I've said this. But VP are absolutely nowhere. I have no confidence in them whatsoever at the moment. Electronic is not beating any fraud allegations for me. Perfecto needs time. I'm willing to give him time. But they've got, like, an aggressive rifler on the bench now that is not going to be getting any game time for any organization for ages now, it feels like, in Flamus. And it's like, you've thrown away such a great aggressive rifler, and you put him in terrible roles that he wasn't comfortable with during his time on VP. You kind of ruined his career for a couple of years, maybe. It's very painful. I don't know, when no one knows how long's left on his contract, truly, but, like, it's so sad. And I think that VP, it's incredible to say this, and I'm convinced it won't. Part of me is convinced it won't happen, but there's a risk they could fall into that, like, Team Liquid tier of a team that has no direction, no synergy really anymore. Even though you've got the Electronic Perfecto duo, I'm not excited about anything to do with the roster at the moment. Even though I wanted to see Perfecto back for so long, he chose VP, fair enough. But I'm afraid I don't think that that's going to get them any further, or not that much further at all. They're the kind of team that will just squeak through to stage 2, honestly, through the lower bracket. But I'm not even sure they're going to do that this time. Astralis made the grand final of Fissure Playground. Hooksy is getting quite a lot more out of his teammates than previous in-game leaders have. I think that's a great sign for them. You have to take into account the level of opposition at Fissure Playground. Astralis would be expecting them to make the grand final every single time at an event of that caliber. They did. They lost to Tyloo. Tyloo are fantastic. But Astralis, thanks to making the final, are now in the top, like, 6. I think they're top 6 VRS right now in the world. Massively inflated ranking. They're nowhere near that yet. I have no doubt that that's not their true... I completely think that's not their true ranking, really. Just the way the money works with the VRS. But I do think they beat Bait here. Bait are coming in a little bit rusty. They haven't played since the Major. They didn't play Fissure Playground. They've purposely had a proper player break. That could help them long-term over the rest of the season. Does it help them here? I'm not so sure. And that's why I'm taking Astralis, having coming warm in off of Fissure Playground. I think Bait might squeak through to stage 2. But I do think that just, like, having more games under their belt since the player break for Astralis is going to be better for them. And an important thing to mention as well, these two haven't played since that famous MRQ game where Bait won 16-14 on map 3 to actually qualify for the Justin Major at all. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting rematch, especially now things have slightly changed for Astralis, obviously. FlyQuest Furia is fun. Furia definitely underperformed at Fissure Playground. They were one of my favourites going in. Yakinda had an awful event after having an okay major. Molodoy's doing fine, but I do think there's still pitfalls with this Furia team that worry me, which is why I do think that FlyQuest with JKS, that's genuinely... that can do something here. That's a huge upgrade. Liaz has been a great servant for so many years. I get that, but... JKS is an instant upgrade into roles that he knows so well. He was forced into some uncomfortable positions on Liquid. It didn't do him justice. And now Justin could be savage again. And I really hope so, because I think that's going to really elevate FlyQuest a little bit. Does it get them a win against Furia? I don't think so. I'm still taking Furia for this one. But FlyQuest are going to be better. And keep an eye out for them for the rest of the season. So quick summary. We've got possibility of FaZe versus Pain. Let's go for there. I'm going to just take FaZe to sneak that purely off of, like, name value, but they do have a history of, like, struggling early in events. Pain could beat FaZe there. They pushed FaZe close historically in other tournaments. But I'm going to take FaZe to make it through in the upper quarterfinal here. taking NIP here, would you believe? I'm probably at NIP 3D Max I'm going to take. Heroic probably should win this game and probably will, but I'm just fancying NIP for some reason, having X-Kaspersky back. I'm going to take NIP to beat 3D Max there. Big gamble, but let's go for it. You haven't lived unless you go for a gamble. I said here, definitely Tyloo making it through without a shadow of a doubt. I said Cole, actually, to beat Gamer Legion. Very close. I think Tyloo, on current form, beat either Gamer Legion or Complexity, unless there is a hangover from the Fissure event. So I think Tyloo make it through here. Astralis beat Bait, and I think I'm just going to take Furia against FlyQuest still, even though they've got JKS now. Let's say Astralis beat Furia. I'm going to take that one after their recent performances, and looking a lot better in the most recent event in Fissure. So that's 4 teams to make it through. Who gets through the lower bracket now? I mean, obviously, this is still yet to be confirmed who's going to play who, right? It's actually pretty hard to predict. But if there's 4 names I'll at least pick and say should make it through as the lower bracket teams, I think Gamer Legion should be making it. They still have a good enough floor level, especially considering the meta change with Overpass coming back into the pool is better for them. I'm taking Heroic to make it through. I'm actually going to take Bait to make it... Actually, no, Fury. I didn't pick Fury, did I? I'm going to take Furia to make it through as the 3rd team to make it through the lower bracket. And the 4th team to make it through the lower bracket. Let's go with 3D Max. I'm actually not confident in Liquid. I'm not confident in VP at all. This could be very up in the air, but we shall see. Anyway, that's going to be my little preview and how I feel about the current teams going into the big boy event of the season, IEM Cologne. I will be there for playoffs. I always never miss a IEM Cologne, and it's always a beautiful experience in that arena. So I will see you in the Cathedral. If you are there, say hi if you see me. But for now, the video is over, and I'll see you for more very soon. Cheers.